Alright, we are live. We tried to do the book club yesterday, but, or I should say late last night, but my internet was giving trouble. Hopefully, it is fine now, but who the hell knows? It looks good on my end, but I don't know. I'll wait till my girl Beanie gets in, and then we'll start. I'll probably have to do because I didn't get to do it last night. I'll probably have to do two later today to finish it before Friday. Today is also Star Wars Celebration, the first day of Star Wars Celebration. So I'm probably gonna end up streaming that. Um, Actually, yeah, I'm probably gonna end up streaming that. It starts at 3:30, so I'll do that. So it'll be this stream. Then we'll finish about probably around 2 o'clock, and then at 3:30, we'll be back for Star Wars Celebration 2022. I can't wait for the announcements that possibly will be announced. So I wish I was there, but California is expensive. So yeah, that's in like 3 hours. So I'm excited for that, and plus Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is it's just a days away. So I'm so pumped. So good things to look forward to. So I have the water here. So we'll just chillax, wait until. There she is. Alrighty, it seems like it's working. Also, I'm in bed. LOL. Did you just wake up? Or did I wake you up? If I did wake you up, I'm sorry. Apologies. Me eyes just opening. Oh shit. Oh my god. Well, at least you don't have to go anywhere, so it'll just be me and you and whoever else decides to join. So as your eyes are just opening, you can just sit back and hear me read. Oh, also, um Star Wars celebrations today. Beans. So it starts at 3:30. So I'm gonna do this. I do another appointment for my thyroid, but that's later. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm actually gonna do three streams today because I'm gonna do the first stream because we didn't get the stream last night. So I'll get a few chapters, and then I know, right? Then Star Wars Celebration is happening today. It's the first day of Star Wars Celebration, so I'm gonna stream that. It starts at 3:30, and then later today we'll do the last stream for this book to finish it. So I got a busy streaming day today, and all random times. So hopefully I get a bunch of random new people to on my stream. So that'd be cool. So let me put back the background music. Mr. Big Streamer. Shit, I'm hoping so. I want to be. I want to be. That's the goal. That is the goal. So I'm gonna wait till the chill music in the background comes on, and then we'll get started. I don't know why the hell my internet was acting up yesterday. That my the review a show thing took forever to load too, so that's why it went up late. So clearly my internet hated me yesterday, but it seems to be fine now. So all right, so we'll get started since The main one is here. The beans. So we're on chapter 36 right now. Yeah, I assume so. I was like, I'll just wait till tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, but everything seems to be good now. So hopefully it stays that way for the rest of the day, I hope. Praying to whatever deities are in the universe. So we're on chapter 36 right now, so we'll probably go up to chapter 44 and then we'll end it there. And then at 3:30, Star Wars Celebration, first day. I'm so excited. Beans, tomorrow is Kenobi. Kenobi! I am so hyped, bro. 2 whole episodes tomorrow. Bro, I honestly can't wait till this day finishes so we could... That's right, our favorite bearded space boy. Oh my god, I'm so freaking hyped. Shit gonna be so fire. Yeah, that's right. So, hopefully we'll finish this book before we see Kenobi. So we have more tears in the chamber for when he meets his favorite apprentice again. So now we're on chapter 36, Anakin Skywalker. Now if anybody's new to this, I am reading Star Wars Brotherhood. You know, this is a chill stream, just me reading, so have me in the background as you're just waking up, or if you're in a different time in the world, going to sleep, or whatever you're doing. It's just going to be a chill stream. Chapter 36, Anakin Skywalker. The last time Anakin traveled in the skies was before he and Padme were married. They dressed in simple refugee clothes, a poncho over a patterned vest for him, I love ponchos, and an outfit light years apart from her usual regalia for her. The intention of those days was to hide, but what they found became something greater, an overwhelming yearning that consumed both of them. It seemed a lifetime ago, though it had been far more recent, and while he now cringed at some of the things he'd said during those idyllic moments, the way words had tumbled out of his mouth without proper social grace or any sensible filter, he wouldn't trade any of it. Oh my god, this book just low-key jabbed the way George Lucas wrote some of those romantic lines in episode 2. That's such an underhanded freaking roast. Oh my god. Alright, fair enough, Disney. I love episode 2. LOL, poor guy, I know, right? Damn, George. Without George Lucas, we have none of this, so I don't know why they keep... Every little dig Disney tries to think they try to put an explanation on why it sounded so rough. I'm like, stop it. Because for all the awkward exchanges and regrettable attempts at impressing her, each of his mistakes and hers chipped away at their mutual defenses until they saw each other for who they were. And it all started with a simple poncho, much like the one he wore now, except this time his outfit wasn't selected from various materials made available to a Jedi and a senator. Quite the opposite, in fact. With the worn coverings they'd procured along with the Nurker, Anakin and Mill played the role of down-on-their-luck merchants, hoping to sell wares on Cato Nemoidia, a planet known for welcoming every opportunity for even the poorest merchant. They left the public landing platform on the edge of Zarya, and their clothes may as well have been dirty wash rags compared with some of the others coming and going in the port. They make fun of him, but they talk about pod racing a lot in the book. I know, right? They were like, I guess it exists, so we might as well just put it in the book because it is part of the canon. But who doesn't love pod racing? Even you loved it the first time you saw it. Oh, it was a little too long, though, I'm not going to lie. But I get why George did it. They left the public landing platform on the edge of Zara, and their clothes may as well have been dirty wash rags compared with some of the others coming and going in the port. Lush robes, glittering jewels, tailored form-fitting suits, all of it spoke an expensive class of travelers who partook in higher levels of business typical of the Trade Federation, where the systemic levers behind merchants and laborers were push and pull for the right price. Those people looked down on, even ignored the ones who got their hands dirty building the merchandise or packing the minerals or selling the wares, which made it perfect disguise for 2 Jedi in search of another Jedi. There's a lot of guards, Mill said as she glanced around. Anakin must have become desensitized to the Trade Federation's mechanical armada by now, because even though the port's guard station saw clusters of battle droids, Their presence failed to intimidate him. Instead, the sight of them provoked an instinct to whip out his lightsaber and slice through them. But he tempered his impulses and considered their bigger threat, the armored Neimoidian guards, the one who might be searching for suspicious activity. Poor prejudice against the B-1 battle droids, we love them. Roger. Ignore them for now, he said, and they entered a dense, packed area of well-dressed travelers of all shapes and sizes. So many species eager to do business with the Trade Federation. Coming here meant paying high prices to take in the view from Kayla Moya's luxury hotels and spas, especially the buildings hanging downward from massive arches of their bridge cities. As long as they ignore us in return, we'll be fine. R2-D2 offered an annoyed beep at the constant starting and stopping as they waited for traffic to clear up. Repulsor lifts carrying suitcases or people simply too caught up in their own business to offer basic politeness. The droid threw a set of curses at a female moon who bumped into him, but the tall, thin woman didn't give them a second glance. Easy, R2, Anakin said. You never know who might actually understand you here. R2's the worst cursor in the galaxy. So are you going to tell me why we're here now? Mill asked after several more steps. Anakin shot her a puzzled look. You know why we're here. You volunteered to come along. No, I know. I'm helping you. And I know it's something about Master Kenobi. Something that's not fighting with hundreds of clones. But what? Anakin rose onto his toes for a view toward the exit, craning and angling around taller beings than humans. Except this really was just a stall tactic to avoid the question. She was right though. The younglings understood that in general, they were here to find Obi-Wan, discover who'd stolen his comlink. The nuts and bolts of that though remained vague, partially because he hadn't figured out exactly what to do once they landed, but partially because he wasn't sure how to explain the mystery evidence. It wasn't quite a rescue mission, and the politics of the situation mucked up the neat boundaries of what needed to happen. Could he just say that it felt right being at Obi-Wan's side when things might go sour? It's complicated. Politics aren't things younglings should think about, and I don't even like thinking about it much. Kyoto Moidia's air was thick, the fog making it harder to breathe. The instant they stepped out of the air-conditioned port building, Mill inhaled sharply and stopped in mid-step. The flow of foot traffic moved around them as if they were a rock that somehow interrupted a river rather than two people taking in a disaster. From their vantage point several stories up, the gap in Zara was jarring. The capital city stretched over the horizon, rocky spires and other formations acting as a foundational anchors between blocks and districts. Yet a massive hole was visible to the upper left, as if the Kadastra district had simply evaporated from existence. Had they stood closer, the collateral damage of explosions probably would have been visible in their remaining underlying infrastructure, but from this distance it was simply gone. Transports circumvented the disaster area, still taking residents and visitors from one block to another. Anakin squinted, an internal judgment coming on about the people all around them. The people resuming their normal lives and taking transports to work as they floated over such devastation. Except when Mill paused, he did too, and he took in the scene around him. What he knew of the Trade Federation of Neimoidians had all come from the way the holonet portrayed them, the way Sandra Dodd blustered anything and everything Newt Gunray had ever done. While the Neimoidians coming and going no longer paused at the shock of the missing Kadasura district, they moved forward, some purposely avoiding a look in that direction, others looking at it for too long. Their mourning had nothing to do with Newt Gunray's actions, for the city's residents' lives pushed forward, but the way of each of them took in such a tragedy was a personal internalized experience that Anakin could only interpret from their expression, or lack thereof. Mill, on the other hand, wore her feelings on her face. I think she said, I'm getting better at this. What's this? Feeling this. She gestured at the space all around. I can sense their suffering, but it's not like I'm drowning anymore. I can handle it. She reached over, taking Anakin's gloved hand. Thank you. Everything you show me is far greater than getting a lightsaber crystal. Maybe he should have stayed with the initiates who were impressed with lightsaber tricks and floating objects. Playing an afternoon entertainer was much easier than trying to understand this youngling. Someone who didn't quite fit the Jedi mold but was changing before his very eyes through lived experience, seeing the way things worked outside the comforts of the Jedi Temple. Anakin took in a deep breath of Kayla Moidia's muggy atmosphere and finally attempted to answer Mill's earlier question. Without a plan, he'd just say it. You want to know what we're doing here? Obi-Wan, my old master, he's here trying to clear the Republic. He was supposed to not contact anyone. not the Council, not the Senate, not me, but he needed help on something he found, something that might incriminate the Republic, and I gave him a secret communicator for a worst case scenario. It's just, Anakin bit down on his lip. It's now a worser than worst case scenario. Why is that? Someone else has the communicator. He stepped forward, both Mill and R2-D2 shortly following. And with that, the data implicating the Republic, we've got to find Obi-Wan. Find that data. Find the way to explain why it seems authentic. Do you think the Republic is free of blame? Just like that, Anakin's good feelings evaporated. A surge of irritation. Any question of the Republic meant questioning him, the Jedi, Palpatine, Padme. But he stifled the feelings, stuffing it deep down before it might turn to something worse. I don't think that's possible. The Republic is trying to stop the war. The Chancellor would have known about an operation. He looked at Mill, trying his best not to be scolding. Why do you think that? You're a Jedi. If the data seems authentic, I just think it's important to ask, don't you? Padme questioned words and intentions, always looking for ways of addressing what lay underneath the surface of what people presented. Obi-Wan questioned the details, always trying to get down to a true understanding of what happened. And even if he doubted the motives of individual politicians, his allegiance to the Republic never shook. Their question always drilled further down, but questioning the bigger picture, the thing that held him together. Anakin took a moment to contemplate such a thing. I didn't. Individuals made wrong decisions, but the institutions in their life, he wanted to say that, of course, they were trustworthy, that they were the foundation that everything was built upon. How trustworthy they were, though, depending on the people in them. As long as morally sound people like Padme, like Palpatine, steered those intuitions, they'd be safe, keeping those people in power. Though meant finding and confronting bad actors, especially the ones in the shadows. Not until this moment. I like to think that only good people make decisions for the Republic. I suppose it's possible. Corruption is possible. A different type of anger sparked in Anakin. What if the data was authentic? Someone working on the inside, but why? War profiteers or someone looking to betray the Chancellor? If corruption did exist somewhere within the Republic government, it had been rooted out and eliminated. It had to be rooted out and eliminated. This was something he'd have to discuss with Palpatine at some point, but not now. Right now, his mission was Obi-Wan and the mission equipment. You've given me something to think about. Look at that. I'm learning something from you. We call it even now. The younglings have to learn their politics. Oh yeah, he would know about an operation. Man really trusted this old dude. I know, right? I mean, his defense though, Palpatine was so nice to him. Like, everyone being kind of mean to him. Palpatine and Obi-Wan's like the only nice people to him. So I can see where he's coming from, but damn, Palpatine really got his claws in that man though, for real. We'll call it even for now. Mills smiled, a welcome sight given their location and the surrounding situation. I thought you were supposed to be the mentor. Me? Anakin laughed. I don't think I was put in this galaxy to teach. Ironic. You don't worry. You'll be in a few months probably. You'll be teaching somebody. Very legendary that we like. They made their way to the bottom of the port's entrance, the dense crowd gradually thinning out as they broke into their separate paths. Above them hung buildings from a colossal arch, a waterfall from there coming straight down into a large circular fountain in the garden in front of them. And in that water a hologram appeared, followed by a flourish of music, the Nemoidians' own version of the HoloNet news. Not surprisingly, the bombing remained the lead story. First, images of the smoking wreckage from the surface. Then, search and rescue teams working through the rubble. Then, Obi-Wan with a lightsaber in an official looking room. That's not good, Anakin said, without turning away. He reached over and tapped R2-D2 on the dome. R2, do a sweep of the area. See if you pick up any further information about what's happening. R2 let out a quick flurry of chirps. Well, not just eavesdropping. Run some scans too. See if anything seems out of the ordinary. The two short whistles of acknowledgement came before the droid rotated and rolled away, leaving Anakin to focus on the HoloNet. The scene changed quickly, the news anchor narrating over it. The Republic's Jedi emissary Obi-Wan Kenobi appeared before local officials at a hearing related to the Katasura catastrophe. But the presentation quickly turned violent as Kenobi drew his weapon and attempted to escape. It cut to a rooftop chase. Obi-Wan ran at normal speed despite pursuit behind him, and a clear set of guards in front of him. The Jedi used his special ability to attack Kid Nemoida's secret remotes before tactical guard teams apprehended him. Things didn't add up here. Obi-Wan's lightsaber didn't appear in the later images despite it being in the first shot, and though he had patrols on either side of him, Anakin saw multiple escape routes off the terrace, to another roof, to a passing vehicle, or up a tower. Obi-Wan worked more methodically than Anakin, but those options would be obvious to any Jedi used to thinking far beyond two-dimensional escape routes. Of the guards who apprehended him, one wore specialized armor, and another person approached, a pale woman who was clearly not a guard, but the image didn't provide enough clarity for further detail. Could this be Dooku's agent? What should we do? Mel asked. Anakin bit down on his lip, thoughts racing while he tried to take in this sudden new set of unexpected variables. The way Obi-Wan ran still felt off, and Anakin considered the possibilities until one felt right. He let himself be captured, possibly even hid his lightsaber securely elsewhere. That was Obi-Wan Kenobi, always negotiating until the last minute. We should find him. Well, he is a negotiator. This might be part of his plan. Anakin turned as R2-D2 whistled, rolling back to them at full speed. But even if it is, we should let him know that we can run point for him. Let's start. R2-D2 interrupted again, beeps and boops demanding his attention. Okay, I'm listening. What is... The droid didn't let him finish and instead beeped out details in an instantly rhythm before projecting a local map, with a red dot blinking at them. What's that? Mel asked. Is that Obi-Wan? No, Anakin said, kneeling down to examine the location. Something about 100 meters away, tucked between a pair of buildings in what happened to be a commercial district, possibly restaurant. It's a bomb. Oh boy. More explosive. There will be one Anakin who is worth it. Yeah, I know, right? But he will learn that soon enough. A good old girl, Ahsoka. I wonder if we might see Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. I doubt it, because the first time she meets Vader's in Rebels, and that's like 6 years after the story, but it'd be cool if Obi-Wan runs into Ahsoka like randomly. That'd be pretty dope. They made a pair of sweeps around the bomb, Anakin and Mil using their Jedi perception to sense any individuals radiating any strong fears or disturbances. At the same time, R2-D2 rolled in a perimeter check, scanning for additional explosives. They met around the corner from the bomb, Mil waiting for the astromech to return while Anakin inspected the explosive material and wiring. We'll have to see. I know, right? Can't wait. Can't wait one day away. The good news, Anakin asked when they reunited, it doesn't appear to have a timer. I'm pretty sure it's remotely activated. It's a sloppy job. The wiring is loosely soldered. The formation of the explosive isn't precise. It's some kind of orange compound. I haven't seen it before, but... R2 beeped impatiently. Of course I know you can figure it out. We need to document the details to send to the Republic, but it shouldn't take too long to disarm. The bad news is it's still a bomb. R2-D2 dome rotated as a headshake, then set off beeps made Anakin's face turn into a grim frown. You're right, R2. The droid was certainly never one to dance around bad news. That is worse. What's worse? Mil squinted as if that might make it easier to understand the beeps of the astromech droid language. He's found two more. Anakin caught Mil's expression, shifting to wide-eyed amazement, prompting a short laugh from him. Never underestimate R2. He knelt down as R2-D2 put out a projection of the suspected locations. He says that based on their location, they might be a part of a series, an explosive chain by design. The fingers of this gloved hand rubbed his chin. The tactical decisions here refusing to easily conclude in a clear path forward. Obi-Wan needed help. His equipment needed to be found. The Republic needed to be cleared, and these bombs need to be defused. But by when? No good answer existed. The only certainty being that the bombs existed and that Obi-Wan would face a trial of some sort tomorrow. Obi-Wan says, one of my biggest problems is I don't know when to ask for help. Anakin finally said, looking over at Mil. This might be a time to ask for help. You mean contact the Republic? Yeah, they could send a battalion out here in time for the trial. If we locate all the bombs and transmit the locations, they can nullify them and rescue Obi-Wan in one fell swoop. Yeah, but that'd be a mistake though. Anakin's lips pursed at the next thought. I hate making Master Windu right though. R2-D2 chimed several tones, an affirmative that clearly stated his opinion. It's the fastest way to do it. You think he could get a clear signal? But wait, Mil said, we can't do that, because it'd make Master Windu right. The joke went over Mil's head, barely breaking the cadence of her words. If the evidence already looks like the Republic did the bombing, sending in clones will only make it worse, even if the goal is to help. The image of Republic gunships swooping through Cato Moidia's bridge cities came to Anakin's minds, clone off-land loading in rapid, precise succession across both governmental docking ports and civilian facilities. You're right, they would see it as an invasion and possibly turn to the Separatists for help. And they might execute Master Kenobi. Anakin nodded, and they might execute Obi-Wan, he said grimly. This was not going to be like Geonosis. No swarm of Jedi would come in to tip the scales in battle. No endless waves of clones would fly in to wipe out the opposition. This mission, in whatever form it had now taken, and however unofficial it was, relied on Anakin's decision alone. And it started with the promise to Obi-Wan, a promise that could be bent but not broken, because it came with the respect of Obi-Wan's understanding of the situation on Cato Moidia. His entire goal was to steer the war toward peaceful negotiations. That had to be why he let himself get captured. But getting to Obi-Wan was simply unfeasible if they had to spend the next day locating and defusing bombs. This was a choice, one that carried all the weight and responsibility of being a Jedi Knight. Slow, even breaths coursed through Anakin as he closed his eyes and weighed the different outcomes here. Find Obi-Wan and risk the bombs, or find the bombs and risk Obi-Wan. What Anakin had told Mil earlier, what his mother had told him years ago about the sun dragon and trusting your heart. The problem was that Anakin cared deeply about both things, and he could only pick one. A different Obi-Wan memory came to the forefront of his mind, as if the Force nudged it into his consciousness as a bit of right place, right time recollection. What do you think Padme would do were she in your position? He'd yell as they soared over the endless Geonosian dunes. And I can remember what he said, not just the words, but the way the feelings processed through him. The wind stinging against his face, the smell of burning fuel and fired rockets all around them. The connections between Anakin and Obi-Wan, between Anakin and Padme, they are both his reasons and his guides in their own ways. Padme would do her duty, and here Anakin would do his, while putting his faith in Obi-Wan to do what he needed to do, with a backup plan in his own way, of course. He was, after all, still Anakin Skywalker. His heart would never change, no matter how much his wife and his former master tried to temper his impulses. He stared down this impossible situation, the tug in two different directions, and he made a silent vow that he simply would find the way. R2, he said, we're going to take care of the bombs. Try to locate the others. We've got less than a day. What about Obi-Wan, Mil asked. We'll work as fast as we can, and if we succeed, we'll still have time to get to Obi-Wan. If not, Anakin stood up, his mind and body already coiled and ready to spring to action. We'll be there for him when he needs us most. That's our boy Anakin Skywalker. You must do your duty, son. Now we're on chapter 37, Obi-Wan Kenobi. No malt sponsor today, just water. If only the people at malt. My dad. Oh no, what's your dad doing? Is he bothering you? Is talking to you? Or just people in the house? Tell your dad it's too early. It's too early for this. Yeah, he's probably talking to you. That's okay. I mean, tell him it's your mornings and you're not a morning person. For good reason. I'll have to help him. Oh boy. Okay, so I guess he's calling you out of the room. God, Caribbean parents, and specifically Caribbean fathers. God bless them, because they're a lot of work. God bless them. You'll probably need to recap. Okay, yeah, all right. I'll do. When you come back, I'll do my best to recap it for you in the most Hamid way possible. So, go help your papa. I will still be here. Chapter 37, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Alright, I'll say when I come back. Alrighty. I'll be waiting patiently. Several hours into Obi-Wan's meditation, a noise brought him back into the moment. A beep, then some mechanical grinding followed by a heavy clang that echoed throughout the cell. He remained seated on the floor until the door began to slide open, the light from the outside casting silhouette. The figure met all standard Nemoidian proportions, but carried itself with a different posture from the usual Nemoidian guards. This one had the weight of experience on his shoulders. It was Rugg, holding up some sort of device. She looked up, then over each shoulder, then clicked the device. It fired off 2 quick beeps before she stepped inside, the door shutting behind her. A single finger went to her mouth. Obi-Wan took the hint and refrained from saying anything until she indicated otherwise. A thin orange beam projected from the device, expanding out in all directions to scan the floor before hitting the bottom corners and moving upward. It crawled up the walls and made it to the ceiling, where all 4 sides approached the center point, collapsing the beam until it became a single dot that vanished. There, Rugg said, pocketing the device. Temporarily disables the surveillance. Are you here to break me out? Obi-Wan asked, standing to meet Rugg face to face. I don't know. Depends on what we figure out. She sighed, looked around the cell. We don't have a lot of time. Where is your young friend, Qatar? I'm sorry, he keeps shooting at you. Rugg laughed, which made Obi-Wan laugh. He's young and impulsive, but his patriotic intentions are true. I just wish he slowed down before pulling any triggers. Obi-Wan didn't try hiding his smile at that. I've said that before too many times. They're a handful, right? But it's the only way they'll learn. Obi-Wan said with a nod before taking this into a more serious direction. I suggest keeping him away from Asajj Ventress. Rugg's eyes narrowed, a clear shift in her shoulders and posture at the mention of Ventress. I've tried, but I know she's found him, or maybe he's found her. There's something off about her. She arrived under the guise of a diplomatic overseer, but everything says she has a clear purpose, one that I don't agree with. I don't trust her. Well, I could say the same about you. Rugg's words stung, but Obi-Wan knew he deserved it. It's just you and me here. No Seekers, no Qatar, no Ventress, so I want, honestly, and I want it now. Why didn't you tell me about the data pad? It's what I said before. I need to know if it was authentic or not. Then tell me you had a lead. Let me ask you this. If the data pad pointed at the Separatists, would you have kept it from me? That is hypothetical. Vastu, don't give me that. Your own personal bias kept that information from me. And here's the thing. The really absurd thing that could have saved us a whole lot of headaches, maybe even prevented you from being in the prison cell right now. What's that? I told you I had a lead and I need a few days, which was exactly what you should have said to me. Well, I got my confirmation from my sources and my lead points to the Separatists. Rugg took out a data pad from her back pocket and tossed it at him. Obi-Wan caught it and began scrolling through its screen. The information sat neatly organized, formatted section by section in a table. The explosive patterns and incendiary traces exactly matched the Separatist blazer bombs seen in the field, only scaled down into a personal scale. The clamping brackets, the mounting tools, even the bomb placement all matched exact specification used by the Separatist droids. It was as detailed as the report he'd recovered on the surface, if not more so. You're certain this is authentic? Absolutely, I bet my life on it. You're betting mine on it, Obi-Wan said, handing it back to her. That too. A wave of emotions flooded through Obi-Wan, a sense of relief and depressurizing calm that dissipated the anxiety of the last few days. Despite all his training and abilities, something of this magnitude still weighed on him more than he wanted to recognize, let alone admit, given the sudden change he felt. So the Republic didn't do it, he said, as if stating it made it all the more real. But one thing doesn't make sense. The transmission from my there it was, he almost said again, my partner. It had confirmed the authenticity of the materials, granted with the context still a mystery, but my source, I trust him with vetting these type of things. It's unlike him to be wrong on this type of scope. Rugg looked at him, her head tilted as she stared right through him. Her large eyes didn't blink, didn't even move until several seconds passed and expression dropped. You don't get it, do you? Apparently not. What am I missing here? Rugg huffed out a sigh, then began a slow pace around the room. You're thinking like a Jedi, within the rules of how the Republic operates, or how you think the Republic operates. What is that supposed to mean? There's the way governments work for the people and the way they work for themselves. I told you, people like me shape the truth. I've done missions without any authorizations from heads of states. I've murdered people by making it look like a complete accident. These things happen. This galaxy is brutal. Cold place with no logic or compassion. I've seen it, she said, thumb tapping against her armored chest, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Though she didn't explicitly say, Rug's words opened up a new path of thinking, an ugly underbelly of possibility that existed outside the realm of Jedi dogma and Republic law. Obi-Wan took a short inhale, one that nearly knocked him off balance. The data. Now you're starting to understand, Rug said, her voice dry, almost apologetic. You're absolutely certain about your findings. Like you, I use someone I trust. I tracked what I could against archives from the governmental data center. It's ironic. Looking up this information, she said with a head shake. The biggest makeshift infirmary is right next to the data center where all the bombing information is stored. She pulled out the small device she used to disable surveillance and checked it. This is about to go down a deep hole with no clear answers, so we need to be honest with each other from here on out. Agree? Agree. We may be the only two people in this operating on good faith, which means every side is relying on us to get this right, whether they know it or not. Whether they like it or not, Obi-Wan said, his voice steady. That's right. Rug shook her head, eyes dimming into a grim expression. No more seeing it as Republic versus Separatists. That's too simple, too binary. Evidence points to each side, which leaves only one possibility. Someone is playing both sides in secret. Probably Palpatine. When you're done with the chapter, you can give just a recap on this and the last chapter. Okay, I got you. Obi-Wan said, his voice steady. That's right, Rug shook her head, eyes dim into a grim expression. No more seen as Republic. Everything Obi-Wan had hoped to achieve with his investigation from the moment he spoke with Count Dooku among the Jedi Council suddenly changed, like a hollow recorder quickly rotating on a subject to reveal a completely different image. His mind began churning, the way ideas spun off further ideas for an endless chain of possibilities. Who would want to escalate on both sides? Rug asked, practically reading Obi-Wan's mind. Who benefits from that? Mutually assured destruction helps no one, not even the lawless. They need a framework to exploit. It would not be the Trade Federation, Obi-Wan thought of Satine, her speech on neutrality urging a policy of non-intervention to maintain peace on Mandalore, nor a neutral system. The longer this goes on, the more it inhibits anyone's ability to deal from a neutral stance. This was a systemic strike, not something that could be done by a rogue agent, or even something like the Bounty Hunters Guild. You've seen the blast points, the damage analysis. It's too precise. I work with bounty hunters, Rugg said with a chuckle, and precise is not part of their standard operating procedure. So the question is, did they emulate Republic and Separatist protocols, or we both engaged in secret ops unknowingly commissioned by the same party? Obi-Wan reached out into the currents of the Force, sinking into it to let it carry him somewhere, but it didn't. The normal sense of flow that came with connecting to the Force felt dissonant here, interrupted, chaotic, blocked. An unexpected fight required to get through the thick cloak draped over it, the dark side. Since the war erupted, the Jedi have been sent all over the galaxy, a mix of fighting separatist forces while playing diplomat to rally local systems to maintain their loyalty to the Republic. But every now and then, when Obi-Wan had a quiet moment, he found himself drawn back to a different moment on Geonosis. Not the battle that spiraled out of control, endless clones and droids and Jedi massacring one another, but a quiet moment beforehand, the only face-to-face exchange he ever had with Dooku, Count of Sereno, the leader of the separatist forces. He'd spewed lies, a blatant attempt to draw Obi-Wan in, even daring to invoke the name Qui-Gon Jinn, but somewhere in that obfuscation, one statement held true, something Obi-Wan felt certain in his bones. The dark side of the Force has clouded their vision, he said. The dark side, yes, but a single Sith Lord holding such a sway without any hint detected by the Jedi? Impossible. The Jedi were nearly 10,000 strong, an interconnected web of beings in tune with the Force, and such a disturbance to the flow of life would be obvious. You would think so. No, these machinations must be something else, a symptom of the dark side, but surely not its epicenter. Obi-Wan focused on that while Rugg checked her device again. Perhaps the culprit is not important, he finally said, his mind working to take steps ahead of whatever nudged the galaxy into further conflict. Perhaps what is important is that both sides see how they are being weaponized against each other, and with that awareness, the urgency to find common ground will be ever greater. Her device beeped, its tip changing from orange to blinking red. We're running out of time before surveillance resumes. Do you believe the best chance for peace is for you to bring this information back to the Republic right now? Are you offering to help me escape? If that's in the best interest of my people, then yes. Obi-Wan hesitated, stroking his beard in contemplation. What will happen if you're caught assisting me? Best case, Rugg laughed, said more than enough. They arrest me for treason. Worst case, well, I suppose I wouldn't be alive long enough to know what they specifically do. I understand, he said, watching the blinking red light on her device. Do you still believe in the ideals that drive your government? You can always believe in the cause, she said, even if you don't agree with the leadership. The device's light accelerated for its beeping, and she moved to the door, sliding it open enough to peek outside. You must choose. The past before Obi-Wan came with no easy answers. If Anakin had been here, they would have collaborated, somehow involving one of his daring escapes to sneakily inform the Republic, while Obi-Wan used his trial as his only chance of public explanation, possibly negotiation, but that wasn't the case here. He was a lone emissary of the Republic, and his goal was peace. Escaping now would cast the Republic in an even worse light, and though the odds appeared slim for any diplomacy to sway Calamodian officials, they still came with a very harsh but hopeful truth. Slim was better than none. I will remain here for now. You're sure? She stepped out, fingers gripping the door. The path out is clear. Surveillance will resume soon. We must go now if you're leaving. Obi-Wan shook his head. I hope you'll be there tomorrow, he said, in case I need some help. His hands waved at the door, the force nudging it closed. All around him, the subtle clicking noises ticked around through the room, the sound of audio and video surveillance reactivating. Rugg's muffled voice came through the thick walls, like a casual greeting to a passing guard. Though the floor was cold and uncomfortable, Obi-Wan resumed his position for a deep meditation. Seated, legs crossed, mind and body opened to the Force. Hey, my boy Nose, what's up? What's up? I gotta say, congratulations for you beating Elden Ring. That was awesome. How long we been live? 41 minutes. So you didn't miss too much. Yeah, he beat Elden Ring the other day. He was fighting the last boss, which was absolutely ridiculous, but he did it all by himself. Bro, your reaction to when you won was so hilarious. You're like, alright, I'm done. I'm taking a break. You lucky bastard. I wish that was me. Yeah, that was definitely worth it. That was awesome. Yeah, not to worry. I still got like about an hour or so left, but you'll see me during the duration of the day, cause today is Star Wars Celebration, and that starts at 3:30. So I'm gonna end up streaming that, and then, well, you'll be asleep because you're like 5 hours ahead of us, but I'll do the final Brotherhood book stream probably later tonight. But you'll see me throughout the day, don't worry. And if you're streaming while I'm streaming, I'll be in your stream, so don't you worry. Sleep is just the best thing ever. Bro, you probably had such a good sleep after you beat Elden Ring. I think you were streaming yesterday, but I missed it because I was out playing basketball with my cousin. Were you streaming Elden Ring yesterday? Well, knowing you finished Elden Ring, I know what you're feeling. Bro, when I finish Elden Ring, bro, that'll be the best feeling in my life. But I'm most likely not gonna finish it unless I have Temptress or Nose helping me. I'm fully comfortable in admitting that. In fact, I don't know if Nose caught it, but I told Temptress, I'm like, I probably won't play this game without help. This game is way too frustrating without help. I have so much fun when I have buddies running around with me. But so Beanie, I don't know if you caught some of that last chapter, but basically, to recap, Obi-Wan was talking to the Moidian Rogue, the commando specialist, and they basically realized that the evidence that Obi-Wan found, it might be the Separatists, or it might be somebody playing both sides, which we obviously know Palpatine's one of the people playing the both sides. So Obi-Wan had a chance to escape, but he didn't choose to escape. He chose to stay there and help the negotiations go through. So the evidence they found points to Separatists, but it also could point to somebody playing both sides, which is probably the scenario that's gonna happen. And it was, yeah, I'm telling you, it was such a good feeling. I'm actually done, LMAO. I streamed SpongeBob and Bloodborne. Oh, you did? Oh, nice. Well, hit me up on Discord whenever you want to play it, and I'll jump on. Oh, definitely, definitely. When I was supposed to play Elden Ring, cause of my schedule, I was supposed to play Elden Ring on Tuesday, but my landlord was here making a bunch of noise, trying to his keyword fix my washing machine, and my washing machine is like right next to me, so I couldn't stream because it was just way too much noise. Hey, I gotcha. Thank you for the recap. No problem. I gotcha. I'm playing a bunch of stuff for streams, so tonight is mostly just a talking one with the game just as background if all goes well. Oh, alright. Dope. You will definitely catch me on your stream, buddy. SpongeBob and Bloodborne. That's a combo. I know, right? SpongeBob and Bloodborne. I like that combination. That sounds like my boy knows. One thing I love about your streams, I told Beanie about this, is that because most streamers usually stick to like one game or one like topic, but you bounce around, and I was like, I kind of like that because some people have like short attention spans, but you bounce around to like a few games in one stream, and I kind of like that. It mixes it up. And Beanie said, yeah, that's cool. And I told her it's kind of easier because when you're in the PlayStation, you can kind of just jump from game to game and then just start streaming immediately, and it pretty much keeps that one stream you have. But I always enjoy your streams, though, that's for sure. I hope Temptress is okay. She hasn't streamed the last couple of days, so I hope she streams sometime today. I need to catch one of your streams. I always miss them. Beanie, like, out of everybody I've watched stream, I would have to say Nose is probably the funniest person on Twitch, bro. Like, his remarks and shit, bro, it has me dying. Oh my god. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. I prefer changing it up rather than bringing out one game. Yeah. But no, you're just hilarious. I don't know if it's that English charm or whatever, but oh my god, you're absolutely hilarious. Like, you be having me cracking up, bro. If I catch your streams, I'll always stay for the whole thing, bro. It's too good. But I miss Temptress, though. I don't know what she's been doing the last couple of days. I hope she's okay. I hope she streams sometime today. That I'll catch her stream too. Being no pressure if you can make it. I'd love to see you there if it's not yeah. Beanie's kind of busy these last couple of days, especially with school and stuff. School's trying to not give her a life. Alright, chapter 38, Anakin Skywalker. Thank you, bro. That's my goal. I always just want to make at least one person smile or laugh. Well, you definitely don't feel for that, bro. Such a good vibe. Chapter 38, Anakin Skywalker. 7 total bombs. It took all day and then some, but R2-D2 felt reasonably confident that he had identified all the bombs and their location. While Anakin and Mills set out to defuse the first one, R2-D2 examined the locations of the next 2. A simple extrapolation using the droid's computational skills, combined with Anakin admitted R2-D2's strong instincts for being right. He is usually right. Built out of options for 5, 7, or 9 bombs, all attached to landmarks of local significance. An elaborate statue that reached up and touched the floor of the transparent steel restaurant hanging down from an overhead arch. A building that official standards was the oldest in Zara and an immaculate constructed tower adjacent to the large official courtyard of Obi-Wan's trial, and others along those lines. Each seemed to be something that might have caught a simple glance from a traveler, but carried more meaning to a local residence, and for someone from the Republic, they represented a crash course in cultural legacy and history, details that the Jedi Archive somehow overlooked. The bombs surrounded the government offices, and R2-D2 projected a map lines crossing to make the target quite clear that these explosions were designed as a message. Because at the center of it all lay the courtyard where Obi-Wan would be on trial, the so-called Grand Theater of Judgment, and all of the targets themselves stood within viewing distance. In fact, the tall tower loomed over the large square, which promised a public hollow viewing of the trial. Whoever the terrorist was, all of this played out as some sort of twisted representation of the Republic. Were the bombs intended to go off before Obi-Wan's trial, to push his verdict straight to guilty, during the trial to frame his statements in destructive chaos, after his trial as punishment of some sort of for whatever way the verdict broke? Every option seemed possible, and these were things Anakin often left to Obi-Wan to figure out. Anakin was more of the impossible deeds with a lightsaber at high altitude and long jumps type of Jedi Knight, but Obi-Wan's thoughtful analysis and strategic mind would have put this puzzle together. Something else was at play here, though they were and what they expect was, he still wondered. R2-D2's analysis remained on the purely technical side, the explosive capabilities of the bomb, the type of compound used, the range of the detonator sensor, but that didn't necessarily dive into criminal psychology, and while Mill gained more control of her abilities with each passing moment, her unique sensory vision didn't help with this task. Though, as Anakin noted with a little bit of pride, she picked up the technical bits of bomb disarmament fast, despite having a completely different upbringing from Anakin's own early days fixing things in Watto's junkyard. By the time they finished the 7th bomb and scouting a tiring radius all around the governmental district, the droid claimed with 93% probability that they cover all the possibilities. Percentages were usually the realm of C-3PO, and Anakin assumed R2-D2 rounded the numbers as he sat with an exhausted Mill. Day having turned to night, with the chrono ticking until crowds would gather for Obi-Wan's trial. Anakin had to decide between trying to get to Obi-Wan or indulging in what little rest they could. But practically won out. They might not find Obi-Wan in time, but practicality won out. They might not find Obi-Wan in time, and if that was the case, they'd have to help him at the trial, which meant they needed to be ready. After moving the ship from the public port of a less conspicuous warehouse district on the outskirts, they found a spot underneath a bridge in a quiet sector halfway to the governmental district, a place where commerce blended with residential housing. They sat against stone, R2-D2 keeping watch. Mill slept, leaning against Anakin, her thin black ponytail draped over his shoulder. Exhaustion took her over, and even if Anakin wanted to keep pushing forward, she would have passed out, having nudged her body to the limit. As for Anakin, he wanted to keep one eye open the entire time, but R2-D2 nagged him to rest, beeping messages about how his timing and strength would be off if he was too exhausted to fight or run. While the astromech droid kept a running scan on their surroundings, Anakin closed his eyes, and though he tried to get a restful meditation, something deeper and more regenerative than sleep, his mind kept turning back to the mystery of the bombs. Not so much who planted them, but why were they all connected, and what was the meaning behind each target. Support the homies. No answer arrived during Anakin's rest, though the mental space allowed his spirits to recharge a little bit. Mill, though, still seemed to fight with exhaustion and perhaps the emotional whiplash of going from a simple training assignment to fate of the Republic task, wore on her more than she wanted to admit. By the time they'd gathered their bearings and emerged from their hiding spot, the population of Zara walked with purpose to the main square. If Anakin hadn't known differently, the scene would have felt more akin to a local festival or a holiday celebration. The only shift came from the attitude of the attendees. While something more joyous would have laughter and singing, the citizens moving past Anakin, Mill, and R2-D2 carried a collective weight on their shoulders, many wearing frowns or looking at the ground, and most draped in deep blue clothes which Anakin took to be a mourning custom. Though Anakin didn't speak Pak, the tone of the conversation conveyed enough. Anger, blame, regret, longing, all of those things came through simply from the volume and rhythm of the words between people. Some of the city's non-Nemoidian residents did express their sentiments in Basic, and they didn't hide their thoughts about what they wanted, and if Anakin wasn't sure, Mill's expression reflected their mood, her empathetic abilities chipping away at her already exhausted body. Stay strong, he said to her as they walked. She looked up and nodded, and he hoped a reassuring smile might buoy her sagging spirits. The physical toll of all this colliding with the emotional wave from the emerging crowd. Her ability to control her connection with the Force had grown significantly, and what would have once crippled her now moved in step with her, an extension of her abilities rather than a hindrance. Sink or swim, he thought, and Mill swam stronger than he would have ever hoped given the way their first encounter went. Even though the trial centered on Obi-Wan and by extension the Republic, it became clear that it didn't matter who was involved. This community had sustained a deep and irreparable wound. Grief and trauma were on trial, and the people wanted justice in whatever form they could take it. Their mourning demanded it. I can feel it, like walking through a stream. Mill took steady steps and her eyes focused ahead, the nausea that ate at her before seemingly transformed. Not just what they're feeling, but how they're feeling it. They've lost friends, family, partners, children. She looked up at Anakin, a ray of sun lighting her brown eyes. This comes outside the war. Their pain is no different from the people on Langston. They didn't deserve this. That can't be our concern right now. Anakin paused. Wonder if that sounded heartless. It wasn't meant to. Padme would have cared about civilians the same way. But all that had to be tempered with the mission. What I mean is, we have a duty to do right by the Republic. To the Chancellor, to Obi-Wan. What about them? Mill asked for the first time. A rise came to her voice. What do they deserve? They deserve the truth, and if anyone can find the truth, it's Obi-Wan. Anakin stopped and surveyed the scene. The 7 bomb locations were all visible, all forming a perimeter around the central location of the trial. He paused, and though urges pulled at him just to get on with it, to ignore whatever complaints Mill had, something pushed back, settling him down easier than whenever he butted heads with Obi-Wan. Hear them, each of these people. They may not matter to governments when the galaxy is at war, but they should matter to us. Anakin nodded, closing his eyes to listen. He didn't use the Force, didn't attempt anything akin to Mill's abilities. He simply took in what he'd heard. The voices and emotions coming up from generations of mourning, all pulling toward the town square. Mill was right. Regardless of what happened in conference rooms and political centers across countless star systems, the individuals who suffered the consequences were often overlooked, ignored, and though some of them cursed at Obi-Wan at the Republic, Anakin reminded himself that those words simply funneled their pain into something tangible. Obi-Wan's job would be to redirect that with the truth, and Anakin's job would be to help him for the Republic and these people. One thing I love about Star Wars is, like, Star Wars is a great narration of what happens in our world through fantasy. And I'm not one for, like, politics or any, like, down news, but what happened to that elementary in Texas is absolutely ridiculous. And it's kind of similar to what happened to the Demoidians here, and only really the governments could fix it. I mean, it's an easy solve, you know, with gun control here in the States, because obviously America has a problem with that shit, and they refuse to admit it, because in our damn Constitution, and our second thing is, like, the right to bear arms. But I'm like, that was in a time of warfare where civilians needed to be armed. We're not in that time now. Like, the fact that these mentally messed up kids could go out and buy freaking automatic weapons over, like, a beer, that's absolutely ridiculous. So one thing I love about Star Wars is, like, it is like a mirror of our reality through fantasy. And if the only way we could learn by that is by, like, adapting and changing. But people, especially governments, are stubborn, and everything is about money, and that's the sad part about it. And I'm not one for politics. I'm not smart enough, nor do I think me personally can do anything about it. But, you know, it can be changed by people just being, you know, better people. But we got people out here that refuses to change. They keep saying we're gonna do something, and they barely do it. I know, right? Like honestly, that shit's annoying. Like, I want peace and love for everybody, but these politicians and governments, like, bad shit needs to happen to them and their children for them to understand it. Because, like, you can't be having that shit and be like, what can we do? I'm like, there's a million things you could do. It's not rocket science. Like, it should be illegal, period, for anyone to wheel a firearm. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you have a permit. I don't care what it is. It should be illegal. I agree. Action speaks louder than words. Everyone just, like, says mourn and will pray for you and all that junk. But I'm like, the action is what these people need, not these kind words that you just forget about and then replace it with memes on the internet later on. Like, that makes no sense at all. But that's just my 2 cents on what's going on, not only in America, but, like, just in the world in general, like with Ukraine and shit. Like, it's just annoying. And Star Wars has always been, ever since it came out, like, a representation of, like, what happens, like, a social commentary on our world through fantasy. This is why I tell people you should think deeper about Star Wars, man. It's not just about pew 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 and lightsabers. Star Wars be deep sometimes. If you take the time to like actually know what it's talking about. Chapter 39, Mill Alabeth. The proceedings played out on a giant holographic display, like a sporting event rather than a war trial. Mill steadied herself, every roar and surge of emotion swaying her. "That's Senator Dodd," Anakin said, as a holographic Nemoidian in fancy robes took up the space and began speaking. Mill's lips twisted in confusion, prompting Anakin to continue. "He represents the Trade Federation in galactic politics. They've committed to remaining neutral in the war, have disavowed Newt Gunray, Kay Nemoidia as the center of their operations, but here, he's promised to stay out of any investigation." Dodd's brief, calm talk did little to soothe the crowd, though. "I am abiding by the commitment I have precisely made," he said. The crowd continued to chatter over his projected voice. "My presence is as an observer. I am in orbit above Kay Nemoidia with fellow Trade Federation officials. We leave this in the capable hands of those with the best perspective, the leaders of Kay Nemoidia itself." Mild applause rippled through the square, and Mill looked up at the person who'd become a mentor to her over the last few days. He stood, his jaw tight beneath an unblinking stare, and though Mill was capable of picking up emotions from everyone around her, Anakin Skywalker remained a mystery. Not because his emotions were hidden. No, it was that they were all there, each one fighting to be seen and heard, like every color thrown on top of one another to blur themselves all out. "Bring out the prisoner," a voice said over loudspeakers, and the hologram switched from Senator Dodd to a live view of the courtyard setting, the whole thing floating above the spectators in the square. A judge oversaw the proceedings, an older female Nemoidian in ceremonial robes and headdress, wearing a silver-lined sash and probably indicated her official rank. Obi-Wan Kenobi came out in shackles, walking with a steady pace and a calm look on his face, even though guards pushed him forward with the butts of their rifles. "This is where we had to split up," Anakin said. He knelt down and looked Mill straight in the eye. There it was again, that whirlwind of emotions that seemed to both orbit and permeate Anakin, unlike any other Jedi she'd ever encountered, perhaps unlike any other being in existence. What lay beyond that, at the eye of his storm, the past few days had exposed her to so many different types of people in such a range of circumstances that her unique ability evolved into instinct. She found herself being able to filter the waves of emotion and reset herself like a muscle. It grew stronger and more controlled, rapidly becoming something that connected her with the Force without overwhelming her senses, except with Anakin. "Listen," he said, "stick to the plan. Know what to look for. We'll rendezvous when the time is right. And trust in the Force." But more important, he nodded, as if he were saying this to himself, "trust in yourself." "Understood, Master. I'll see you soon, youngling." With that, Anakin moved swiftly, like he rode a wave that carried him through the crowd of people. Several seconds later, Mill couldn't have found Anakin if she tried. She pulled her dirty, torn hood over her head and set out in the opposite direction, doing exactly what he'd instructed. "Look for a way out," voices broadcast overhead, official declarations that reviewed the recent days. From Obi-Wan's arrival to the events that Mill watched as holographic replay, the confrontation in the Kay Nemoidian office, the chase along the terrace and the parapet, his eventual capture. But she ignored the details, not needing them, and instead focused on the things Anakin emphasized to her. First, there needed to be a path that provided solid cover and easy stealth, with the ability to switch things up and should they need to lose guards. Second, a few obstacles as possible, which Mill took as find a stretch with the fewest guards. She searched using the Force to provide a deeper perspective to her space in the ways that so many in the temple had caught her over the years, and the more she sank into the Force, combining her natural abilities and reading what the Force told her, the more she felt like each step forward increased her capabilities and her understanding of herself. She was glad that she'd skipped the gathering. A lightsaber didn't find the way, not in a situation like this. The broadcast continued, a lengthy speech going step by step over the rooftop chase, and Mill moved as fast as she could, only to hit a wall of emotions that stopped her in her tracks. The massive wave of pain all came from the south side, and as she closed her eyes to let the Force color in her true vision, she saw it. Not the damage of the people watching the trial, but injured Nemoidians and others, lying down in a huge makeshift infirmary. The voices of the trial faded as Mill gave into the vision. the burning red silhouettes of each and every person filling up her mind's eye until she finally forced herself to return to the here and now. She opened her eyes and found herself some 10 meters from the infirmary, a white tent draped over her, a shoddy frame, as the force had unconsciously pulled her there. One breath, then two, then a third went in and out, a calming technique that reconnected her mind and body, and she noticed a detail that might just save herself. Anakin and Obi-Wan. R2-D2 rolled up behind her, the droid's beeps sounding like they chastised her for leaving them behind. "I'm sorry, R2, she said, patting the droid on the dome. "Can you scan for any guards? I don't see any. I don't sense any. I only sense patients lying down." An internal wiring came from the droid, sounds that Mel didn't quite get, followed by droid language that she didn't quite understand, but the rhythm of it told her enough. R2-D2 agreed. There wasn't any guards nearby. "I don't think they're guarding this infirmary," she said. The droid beeped some more, and Mel took slow steps forward. "They might not be guarding any of the infirmaries. Are they just doing this to let them recover in peace, or does the military just..." Her voice trailed off. Though R2-D2 waited patiently, just not care. Her pace quickened, and the droid soon followed, the sound of wheels rolling over gravel. "Come on, let's find out before Anakin does whatever he's going to do." Yes, I'm so. And now we're on Chapter 40. Chapter 40, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm making a really good time with this book. Boy, people need the Force. Maybe then we'll be able to understand each other more. Chapter 40, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan stood in the middle of the courtyard, hands shackled in front of him, a gust of wind whipping through the air, dangling down his neck. Minister Yam spoke in a steady, low cadence, and Obi-Wan committed himself to listening with an open mind, despite urge to rebuke falsehoods or misinterpretations. "Let us remember the recent history between the Neimoidians and the Republic," the minister said, his voice echoing into the open airspace. "Not that I am speaking of merely the Trade Federation. I am speaking of Neimoidians as a people. We are often overlooked in that aspect. In fact, let me ask our emissary. When you hear the word Neimoidian, what do you think of?" This was a trick question. Obi-Wan had been in enough negotiations to know that the questions like this were verbal minefields, the smartest, best kind of trap, because Iam was correct. Nearly all Republic citizens associated Neimoidians exclusively with the Trade Federation, barely looking past the things like shipping routes practically for those that worked in the Outer Rim. Particularly, for those who worked in the Outer Rim. He wanted to say something about their people, their culture, but the truth was he only read about it to the other night. He didn't actually know it. He chose his words carefully. "Independent," he said. "Ah," Yam said with a hand clap. "I like that. Yes, independent, neutral. In fact, immune to the shouting between the Republic and the Separatists. But the problem lies here. You say independent, and while many Neimoidians do work for the Trade Federation, not all of us do. Yet here you associate our people with the government that represents most, but not all. So while the Trade Federation itself is independent, and most Neimoidians support that independence, you have demonstrated one of the fundamental issues here, Master Kenobi. You have linked the two together. Is that because of what the Trade Federation does? Because the Trade Federation's business is commerce itself? Not minerals or technology or vehicles or weapons, not things Republic leaders can purchase or regulate, but something that acts as an impediment to their reach. Surely if the Trade Federation produced spacecraft at the volume of, say, Corellia, it would be recognized for something tangible, something you could point to and say, ah, for the greater good of the galaxy. Perhaps that is why the Republic tends to keep Neimoidians at a distance, and why it is so hard for Neimoidians to be recognized as individuals. The words sank in, a truth to them that came with clarity. But why spend the opening of this trial discussing history? Obi-Wan's eyebrow rose as he put it together. Iam knew, perhaps Senator Don knew as well, that the galaxy was listening. This in fact might have been the most power Neimoidians ever held in a single instance, and they were going to use it and show the Republic exactly how they felt. Neimoidians have a rich, beautiful culture. Look around us, we are surrounded by it. The intricate carving of the goddesses Avon and Meridine as they tell the unraveled tale, the Tower of Light. as much an architectural wonder as it is a work of art. The Museum of Nemoidian Contributions, the oldest building on Cato Nemoidia, a celebration of how our people's skills have benefited the galaxy. Yet, are these discussed in the Republic classrooms as they cover galactic culture? Damn, this is deep. Not at all, the minister shook his head. To the Republic we are a monolith, a people of business. He took another pause, though this time he broke past the facade of calm objectivity. His eyes squinted and his voice rose. A people of greed, a people of deception, perhaps not even a people. Minister Yam spoke with an orator's rhythm, changing his pitch and pace in a way that precisely engaged with anyone who listened. And though the crowd in the square stood some distance away, they swayed to the rhythm of his words. Obi-Wan sensed their collective grief evolving to a more tangible anger, something that carried enough momentum through the Force to pull his concentration. They sought retribution in some form, someone to absorb the community's pain. He took a quick breath and told himself to focus. Just as the galaxy listened to Yam, soon it would be his turn. Was our tragedy caused by someone from the Republic? We will hear both sides of the case. But one thing that must be considered, what were the conditions that caused such a tragedy to happen, that put Cato Nemoidia in the crosshairs of someone else's war? Had the Republic recognized Nemoidians as a people rather than tools of transaction? Would their relationship with Cato Nemoidia and Trade Federation be different? Would they have enacted greater protections to worlds such as Cato Nemoidia as the conflict unfolded? Arms raised, he gestured upward. Each movement created another wave of noise from the crowd. Would Cato Nemoidia even still be a target? As we determine the innocence or guilt of the Jedi emissary, perhaps this context is even more important. A wave of noise came from beyond the walls, the crowd's uproar rolling over the structures and buildings around them. The minister waited for the noise to settle, a space for his words to take root. What is on trial here is much more than a single act of terrorism. Let us hear from the Jedi emissary. The judge excused Minister Yam, then looked directly at Obi-Wan. A rifle muzzle jabbed into his back, nudging him forward until he stood directly in front of the judge. And though he spoke directly to her, Obi-Wan took great care in knowing that his words were being listened to by governments all across the galaxy. Everything that had happened led to this point, this negotiation. Obi-Wan considered all the gears of government across countless systems, how his words might impact chances of either peace or war. You are right, Minister Yam. History does not lie, and I cannot condone the long-time actions the Republic has made in dismissing the Nemoidian people and its colonies time and again. I cannot justify the ignorance the way the Republic has seen the Nemoidians as assets of the Trade Federation rather than sentient beings. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to want a better life for your people and your children. You have earned your voice as a people and for those represented by the Trade Federation. I understand the need to be heard, but I urge you now. Being heard requires truth and faith in return. So I ask you to judge the truths I will present in good faith. Otherwise, this war will consume us all. Outside, the mass of hostility gradually trickled into quiet. Obi-Wan hoped the more humble and philosophical tone of his words countered the bluster of Yam, statements that might spur reflection rather than whip up a frenzy. He chose his words carefully, a blanket to drape calm over the storm. You have lost loved ones, you have lost children. I cannot bring them back, but if you listen to me right now, everyone here, everyone watching this holocaust, in the Republic or in a neutral system or aligned with Count Dooku's movement, we have a chance to stop this war. His last few words projected with emphasis, as if he had said them strongly enough that they could have ordered both sides to put down their weapons. I repeat, we have a chance to stop this war, so no more lives are lost. Seconds ticked by, the crowd quieting to a point that Cato Nemoidia's winds blew louder than the gathered mass. I will now detail my findings in full, proper context. Obi-Wan reached out through the Force for any sense of how combustible the crowd was, but grief turned out to be their default emotion, which meant how they took the next part of his speech would be completely unpredictable. He considered his words, so carefully planned and committed to trusting that the right people would recognize his attempt at good faith negotiation. I've seen the evidence, he started, his voice clear but quiet. I have seen it in my own investigation as well as data gathered by others. Was Rug nearby? He hoped so, and he hoped what he was about to say met with her approval. It is true, there is evidence that points to the Republic. The information on the datapad I uncovered was authentic. This bombing's details match materials and protocols used by the Republic. The evidence shows this, and I will not lie for political purposes. From afar, the clamor of the crowd started again, and Obi-Wan knew that his window of opportunity to make this point would quickly close. He needed to strike with precision here. I ask you to wait and listen before you judge, because there is more. Further evidence pointing to the Separatists. Just as the datapad showed materials and protocols matching Republic bombs used by the clone army, I can confirm that Katasura was also attacked using materials and protocols matching Separatist blazer bombs. Voices from outside created a communal din, an acknowledgement that things had taken an unexpected turn. Please, you must see the truth. There is something else at play here. Something that is trying to escalate the fighting. Someone or something that is making gains of all our suffering. That is the cause of this tragedy, and the culprit is still at large. Extremist groups are already involved with the war. Your own government has sworn off the actions of Newt Gunray as an extremist faction, and now this bombing with materials drawn from both sides, and indeed placed to look like both sides, so both the Republic and the Separatists can fight even more battles, fire even more weapons at each other. His voice took in on a rhythm, something that not that different from the soar and pause of Iam's cadence. But this was not calculated theater. Obi-Wan let the urgency of the moment guide him. Every word a step towards his ultimate goal. There is only one solution for all of us, on all sides, de-escalation. And there is only one path to de-escalation. The Trade Federation cannot stay neutral in this war. Neutrality in the face of extremism only gives extremists more space to breathe. It must be extinguished before more lives are lost, and the only way to stop it is to de-escalate the war. My name is Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Master and Emissary of the Republic, and I have presented the facts to you in good faith. I now invite you to return to good faith. Join me in recognizing this threat, a threat not just to the people of Cadia Neimoidia, but the Trade Federation and to stability across the entire galaxy. If the Trade Federation aligns with the Republic, we can use this tragedy as a first step to communing together and negotiating peace with the Separatists. More noise came from the crowd outside, but by now the voices mixed too densely to decipher what type of reaction was playing out, just what the reaction existed. Obi-Wan gave himself equal odds at talking steps toward peace and throwing an accelerant on the galaxy. If Anakin were here, surely he'd have a witty remark for Obi-Wan to roll his eyes at. And now we will hear from the Royal Guard of Cadia Neimoidia. The judge said, "Please present your evidence." Behind Obi-Wan came the sound of a door sliding open, boots hitting stone, creating an even and steady cadence as the guard entered the courtyard and moved forward. Obi-Wan didn't look. He knew who it would be. Katar's voice came laced with venom. "This emissary," he said, an unexpected pious tone, "from the Republic speaks of truth and good faith, and yet here is the truth. Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Jedi Order has come here under false pretenses. He has lied to every single person in this square, every single person on Cadia Neimoidia, every single person mourning a dead brother or sister or child or parent or friend. He is lying to you and clearly concealing that lie in the truth about the recovered datapad." The young guard held up the device, its holographic details fully projecting. "This datapad, the one implicating the Republic, and yet you claim there's further evidence of Separatist materials in the bombing. Where is your source implicating the Separatists?" The pure technical truth was that Obi-Wan wasn't sure. He hoped Rugg was around somewhere watching the proceedings and acting as a form of safety net for him, but he didn't know the answer to the question, and regardless, he was in no position to reveal her involvement. "I must protect my source, perhaps if I had a few more days." "So," Katar said, a certain joy in his interruption, "an anonymous source, no physical evidence, and only his word to go on. Let me tell you something about the word of the Republic." Katar deactivated the bomb data holograph, then looked directly at Obi-Wan. Now our Jedi friend likes to talk about good faith, so let me speak on that. We know that the Republic, Neimoidian physiology is often misunderstood, often mocked. We know that the Republic sees Neimoidian culture as business assets, see us as cogs of galactic commerce and nothing else. But all of us here on Cadia Neimoidia know that Neimoidians are much more than that. Every single one of you knows a Neimoidian who is a scholar or an artist or a historian or a philosopher. Neimoidians, like my parents, who were artists, in fact, like many Neimoidian artists, they didn't make their living that way. As much as our society celebrates artists, our reality within the Republic requires our culture's most celebrated to work. Qatar looked over at the overseeing officials in expected ways, which they did. They worked to optimize the computer systems that supported transactional databases, but their true passion was found here on Kaonamoidia, all the way on the surface. The luminescent oils found on the trees below the mist. They painted with those, a rare skill, that delicate touch to preserve the oil so the glow changes with light and temperature rather than fading away. When I was a child, they showed me the natural wonders of our planet. Their work was so esteemed in our sector that they were even invited to show it at Coruscant's Festival of Stars. I remember, Qatar paused, his gaze dropping and voice softening. I remember the piece exactly, the way the oils lit from the back to brilliant colors to white, an ode to the magic of hyperspace travel. Now I'll explain to our Republic emissary, transporting bioluminescent oil is not easy. That is why so much of this art stays here on Kaonamoidia. But they were determined. They took all necessary precautions to protect their work from the rigors of hyperspace and atmospheric entry. Yet, when they got there, the first Nemoidians to present at such a prestigious event, how do you think Republic officials treated them? Obi-Wan knew exactly where this was headed, and with that realization, he could feel the screws turning, even without the low murmur of the surrounding crowd. A unique artistic vision, only possible by Nemoidians living here on Kaonamoidia and on Coruscant. They were given the runaround, even doubted about its authenticity. After all, as you can guess, the Republic only views Nemoidians in one way, and on the third night of the festival, when they were finally given a quiet corner to display their work, it was vandalized overnight. Qatar's eyes closed, his hands balled into a fist. Such a tale had nothing to do with Katasori disaster, yet Obi-Wan knew that the trajectory of the Clone Wars might tilt on one family's tragedy. It turns out that those on Coruscant may not know Nemoidian artwork, but they are very familiar with Nemoidian slurs that I will not repeat here. My parents left early, discouraged by how Coruscant treated them, and though it's a relatively short trip back to the colonies, they decided to use the extra time to explore other regions they had yet to see, through Republic-protected hyperspace lanes. Qatar met Obi-Wan's eyes, an unblinking stare that told him how the story ended. They never came home. Pirates raided their shuttle in the Republic's so-called law and order. Their trustworthy hyperlanes turned out not to be so. Only a single distress call made it through. He reached behind him and produced a small disc in his palm. His other hand tapped a button on the side and out projected what Obi-Wan assumed to be the family painting, a swirl of dots and lines with colors moving in the most impossible ways. Even in a small holographic form, Obi-Wan recognized its unique beauty, and though shame wasn't a feeling Jedi encountered very often, he distinctly understood it here. Look at what the Republic's promises have done to my family, their pride, their safety, our stability. The biggest Holonet stars in the galaxy get paraded around with armed escorts. Kaonamoidia's most talented artists, nothing. The hologram faded away. Qatar put in the project back in his pocket. You may be asking why this matters here, and I'll tell you why. Because we have heard talk about good faith today and all our lives. Good faith, Qatar asked, his voice escalating. From the Republic, it has never existed. Never. And now I will give you one very real, very relevant example of this. The last word came at a full yell, one that caused even the judge to wince. One last try. Who is your source implicating the separatists? Qatar's question hung in the air, enough time passing that the noise from the nearby crowd grew in volume, a sound that symbolized both the venom and desperation of their anxieties of this moment. Obi-Wan considered his last discussion with Rugg. In theory, he could name her. Would that be enough to sway the judge, the crowd, even Qatar? And what would that do to Rugg? She'd said herself that helping him put her life at risk. Did he have the right to do that, even with the galaxy at stake? Would he sacrifice Rugg for this? Well, Kenobi, Qatar asked. He did not. He would not put her in harm's way. I cannot reveal my source right now. If you give me more time, I'm certain something can be arranged. This Jedi, Qatar maintained his intensity, hands turning into fists at his side, dodges questions, lies about equipment, destroys evidence. He speaks of truth. Here is the truth of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He does not view Nemoidians as equals, and he, like the Republic, dealing with my parents, wants all of us to live quiet, inconsequential lives so that they may abuse us from the core worlds, so they may continue to treat us as assets. He wants the Republic to own the Nemoidians, to take away our freedom. Qatar circled until he stood directly in front of Obi-Wan, then stepped toward him until they went face to face, eyes unblinking. To that I say he is guilty of conspiring against Kayla Nemoidia, of covering up evidence, of breaking his promises, and of a much larger crime, one that he shares with the Republic, devaluing every single Nemoidian in the galaxy. I have 2 words for him and the Republic, and I will speak them not in our beautiful pack, but in basic, in his tongue. No more. In that moment, Obi-Wan realized the massive miscalculation he'd made. He put all his faith in facts, but completely ignored the power of emotion in swaying the masses. No matter what he might have said, what evidence he might have presented, nothing would connect with a mourning people like one of their own, playing to the power of displaced grief. He tried to interject, trying to get something to express his sympathies, to empathize the importance of strong galactic relations and stability, but it was no use, and any momentum he had dissipated, absorbed into the roar from outside, one that moved with enough fervor that it nearly shook the ground of the bridge city. The Nemoidian government is known for its swift and decisive justice, and though some cases require more days to reach a decision, this particular case is clear. The judge pointed directly at Obi-Wan, the tips of her ceremonial purple headdress blowing in the wind. Does the defendant wish to say any closing words? Obi-Wan adjusted in his boots, his posture straight and his eyes clear as he looked directly at the judge. I have presented the truth. For hours he crafted his backup plan, playing out every detail in the pit option with the sole intent of not using it. The power of truth was supposed to win out, and its failure caused Obi-Wan to breathe out a defeated exhale. The sheer strangeness of raw emotional swings created a brief but tangible bout of exhaustion. And now I put my faith in you. I await your judgment. Several seconds of silence passed, and the judge raised one hand, a calming pause that radiated like a blanket over the proceedings. With nothing to compete against her words, she spoke with a clear and exact diction. The emissary from the Republic is found guilty of conspiring against the laws of Kayla Nemoidia, of being in collusion with the Republic in the tragedy of Katasura, and of attempting to hide evidence of that crime. Behind Obi-Wan, approaching guards became a rhythmic stomp, and he tensed himself as Qatar walked in front, putting himself between Obi-Wan and the judge. Obi-Wan glanced up at the tall structure where his lightsaber sat embedded in a wall, the so-called Tower of Light according to Yam. Take him away to await sentencing. A far door opened to his left, which he assumed led to a holding cell, and ahead of him Ventress appeared on the dais. Though she remained slightly hidden behind Yam, she looked directly at him, making eye contact before tilting her head. Then she pointed at the guards closing in behind him. He sensed his weapon as easily as it sat in his palm. Should he pull it now? No, he thought. Making a commotion now would likely defeat what little goodwill he'd earned in his speech. In fact, it might play into the Ventress's and Dooku's plan. Obi-Wan decided to leave his lightsaber for now and go quietly, adapting any plan to what lay ahead. Except the marching stopped. Their steady approach paused, replaced with a single thunk, followed by the clatter of a dropped weapon. Obi-Wan turned to see the lead guard on his knees, hands to his throat. Foam leaked out of the corner of his mouth, and he gurgled before collapsing sideways. The Jedi has poisoned the guards. Qatar's voice soared through the space, and Obi-Wan spun around to find Qatar with pistol drawn, and above him Ventress remained, arms still pointed outward, though she slowly brought it down. The corner of her mouth curled upward, and she nodded at Obi-Wan, though he didn't have time to guess at her plan, not with Qatar's weapon drawn. This is not my doing, he called out as loudly and clearly as possible. We need medical assistance right now. Emergency medical personnel, however, did not arrive. Instead, several further guards sprinted in from the far tunnel. The Jedi is trying to subvert our security, Qatar shouted again. Please hurry, this guard needs medical attention. Obi-Wan's voice was nearly as loud as Qatar's. If you release me, I can help. Stop your lies, Jedi. You are a liar and a murderer. Qatar's arms stiffened and his eyes narrowed. In that moment, Obi-Wan reached out with the Force, sensing his lightsaber. It was to be a last resort. Pulling it meant unleashing something that could not be undone. He had to choose carefully. From the side came the sound of other guards rushing. Obi-Wan turned to catch sight of them rushing to their fallen comrade, but before he could even take a single step, the sound of blasted fire rang out. The bolt soared past his waist and singed the ground some 3 or 4 meters behind him, burning a gash into the stone. Specks and chips of stone spiked into the air, and a scorched odor hit his nose. "He's making his move," Qatar yelled. All eyes turned to Qatar, including Obi-Wan's. And Obi-Wan noticed a subtle shift in the way Qatar held the pistol. The young guard changed his angle so slightly that only the most perceptive observers would take note. As that happened, another guard fell to his knees, choking in a similar way, and just as that happened, 2 more bolts fired from Qatar's pistol, both landing near Obi-Wan but avoiding any direct hits. With that, it became clear that Qatar's plan was taking out Obi-Wan in front of the guards, the judge, indeed the galaxy via the broadcast. That might fail to rally support to his purposes, whatever they were, but with his scattered fire, the choking guards, and false claims of Obi-Wan's action, Qatar framed Obi-Wan as the aggressor without any direct combat. And from the dais, Ventress moved, her arm briefly held up in the other point before dropping. She turned and disappeared behind the Yam and other local officials. The click of rifles unfurled all around him. A quick look saw weapons lifted one by one, and it didn't matter that his hands were still bound. Seconds ago, he thought the most peaceful, most diplomatic solution possible. Now, with Qatar's fear and rage driving the proceedings, combat felt inevitable. And it was his duty as a Jedi to redirect that violence in a way that minimized harm to the mourning populace, and indeed to a galaxy on the edge of ripping itself apart. He didn't want to use it, not in this way, but Obi-Wan knew his lightsaber would be necessary. He shut his eyes and let the Force flow through him, igniting perceptions far beyond his physical senses. Murmurs from the crowd danced like raindrops in an ocean, individual strikes that melded into the greater flow. The energy shackles around his waist deactivated. Circuits crunched through the Force to turn the buildings into dead weight. At the same time, he stretched his senses upward, far up the tower, to pull his lightsaber free. In his slow perception, another blaster bolt discharged, a burst red starting at escaped guard's muzzle. Milliseconds after it came out, the others, a gap that felt like minutes in this state. As this played out, the lightsaber hurtled through the air. It approached a speed pushed forward through a combination of gravity and the Force pulling it. Obi-Wan's legs tensed, ready to fly straight up to the instant he was reunited with his weapon. The vector of the hilt projected in his hands, along with a calculation of how high he would need to vault up after catching it. When to snap his hand open, when to time the arrival on his palm with the immediate move to form a defensive pose. All of that came together in a single instant, a plan ready to execute with perfect precision, when something else arrived, breaking all of Obi-Wan's careful timing. Dang, this shit is crazy, bro. We are going too fast. I know, right? No pressure, Obi-Wan. This man can't catch a break. I know, right? Oh my god, bro. This book is deeper than I thought it would be. God damn. I ain't gonna lie. It even has me thinking like, cause I always thought as Nemoidians, cause like the way they present them in the Clone Wars and in all media, they've been presented as like the enemy, but that's because we usually view them at the perspective of the Republic and the Jedi and stuff. But man, this book hits deep, and I feel bad for Obi-Wan, bro. He just wants peace, and young rage and ignorance like this man, Qatar, bro. Oh my god. With all this stress, man shouldn't have any hair. I know, right? The fact that Obi-Wan has such a luscious hair with all this shit going on, bro. Oh my god. Like when you think about it, Obi-Wan's life. That's why I always say Obi-Wan is the, like, as much as I love Master Yoda, and Master Yoda, you know, Master Yoda he's 900 years old. He had time to learn. Obi-Wan's a human. I think Obi-Wan's the best Jedi to ever live. Like, he is the epitome of what a Jedi should be. Like, if you look at this man's life, losing his master, like, he couldn't be with his lover, Satine. Like, after he meets Satine and she gets murdered by the same guy who killed his master. And instead of killing everybody in that room, he just mourned her. And he doesn't even hate Maul. Like, to the point where when he meets Maul again in Rebels for the last time and he kills him and he holds him in his arm and then gives him some comfort that Luke is the chosen one that'll avenge him and Darth Maul, like, man, Obi-Wan is premium, bro. Obi-Wan, who is I wanna be Obi-Wan when I grow up. Obi-Wan's a premium character. I loved him before I knew all this shit, but more of the canon is just making me love Obi-Wan Kenobi even more. I'm even more hyped for the show to see what else he does in his grief. Everyone should channel a little bit of Obi-Wan in them. I agree. If more people in this world channel more Obi-Wan in them, we might actually have a utopia. Man, it's freaking fantastic. Poor guy, but I get where the Nemoidians are coming from though. Like, that shit hit deep, bro. What did Zabuza say? Your words cut deeper than any blade. Chapter 41, Anakin Skywalker. This poor man Obi-Wan, bro. Obi-Wan sure loved to give speeches, almost as much as he hated flying. Perhaps that was why they worked well together. Whenever Obi-Wan went into negotiation mode, Anakin rushed forward and balanced that with a lightsaber. This is true. Usually sparing all of them from Obi-Wan's attempts to talk everyone down. Because sometimes talking didn't work. Oh, that's true, Anakin. I'll give you that. In this case, though, it bought Anakin some time. He started in an alley upon parting ways with Mill, then found a good spot to leap up, story by story, until he made it onto a neighboring roof. Though a few citizens took in the trowel from the roof as well, Anakin moved swiftly enough behind ventilation ducts, and the shadows of the building hanging from the overhead arch to remain undetected. He did make the mistake of peering down over the edge, and while heights weren't anything new to him, those usually came from the buildings above the surface. Here, Anakin saw the edge of the bridge city and the long drop through the mist. He shook off the flash of vertigo and leapt forward until he got to the side of a building adjacent to the courtyard. From a short windowed ledge behind some decorative flourishes, he watched Obi-Wan finish his speech, a very good speech in fact, one that would play well on the holonet before the young guard stirred things into a frenzy. Despite being far above the crowd, their emotional fervor became obvious. The way they moved to every point the guard said. He knew even before it was done that Obi-Wan's speech, as strong as it was, would fail in this situation. And as the guards dealt with the ensuing confusion, Anakin perched himself, trying to tune in to what Obi-Wan was planning. He planned something, though the choking guard clearly swerved the situation, while also dealing with the very practical matter of rifles being drawn and ready. From afar, he picked up a ripple in the force, not something that necessarily heard with his ears, but the slightest bit of movement around the nearby tall tower, a site where they disarmed the bomb the day prior. It didn't matter though, because something more critical was about to take place here. Anakin gripped his lightsaber, thumb ready to trigger the blade's ignition, his senses reaching into the force. He perched behind the ledge, ready to go. In his mind's eye, he could see the blaster bolts leaving the rifles before they physically did. The speed, angle, and the exact trajectory which his lightsaber would easily deflect. He leapt, a fraction of a second before the first rifle was charged. At that instant, many things happened at once, though Anakin experienced them with slowed perception. His boots landed in front of Obi-Wan, who still had his eyes closed in meditation. His lightsaber ignited, the blue blade coming to full length right before his feet touched the ground. The blaster bolts burst into existence and flew out of the muzzles. And over his shoulder came something completely unexpected, the sound of a lightsaber coming to life. Anakin turned to see what this surprise threat was, only to find Obi-Wan's lightsaber flying toward him at full speed. He swung his own lightsaber to deflect the oncoming weapon, but its rapid, twirling velocity caught him off guard. Though he blocked enough of the blade to direct it to the ground, it still nicked him on the side of his right shoulder. "Ow!" he yelled with less dignity than he would have liked, and as Obi-Wan's lightsaber fell to the ground, its blade withdrawing, Anakin ignored the burning pain and kept blocking the oncoming rifle fire. Dang, Anakin out here ruining Obi-Wan's escape plan. The mechanical arm again. If his mind and body worked in complete sync, his arm should have deflected Obi-Wan's lit blade right into his former master's hand, allowing them to step into effortless side-by-side defensive combat. Instead, Obi-Wan merely looked at him, mouth agape, while Anakin deflected rifle blasts. "Anakin, I had a plan." "Sorry, Master." The lightsaber blade moved effortlessly, guided by instinct that both listened to the Force and controlled it. Blaster bolts flew away in all directions, most of them zipping upward to eventually evaporate into nothing. Through all of it, Anakin stayed in control enough to kick Obi-Wan's lightsaber toward him. You gonna join in, or do I have to do all the work? I suppose I should say it's good to see you. The hilt on the ground trembled before flying into Obi-Wan's open palm, its energy blade coming back to life. The back door slid open, announcing the arrival of more guards, and Obi-Wan and Anakin stood back to back, surrounded by the screech of blaster fire and the hum of their wiring lightsabers. I make plans without you now, you know. That's your first mistake. Despite the hail of incoming fire, Anakin moved effortlessly in sync with his former master. You said things always get more complicated when we're together, but they also work better. Battle droids, Obi-Wan yelled, the playfulness leaving his voice. Anakin glanced up to see the two small floating transports, each carrying 10 curled up battle droids ready for deployment. We need a way out. Do not hurt the guards. Don't hurt the droids either. Not even the one running his mouth about the Republic. Especially not him. Anakin wondered just why Obi-Wan would single that particular nuisance out for protection, but that would have to be discussed after everyone stopped shooting at them. Cover me, then follow me. You're giving the orders now? Obi-Wan said, lightsaber swooping left and right with precise motions. You're gonna have to learn to trust me. I always welcome new experiences. Just a few months ago, the exact same words would have been exchanged between Anakin and Obi-Wan, either in a quiet moment or in a heat of combat, but they could have been laced with condensation and resentment. Somehow this change in rank, this balancing of roles, this recognition of each other, transformed their verbal jabs from bitter conflict to friendly competitiveness. Were they still the same people, just addressed differently? Those were things for Obi-Wan to ponder. All Anakin knew was that he preferred the version of Obi-Wan with an actual smile to the one with a perennial frown. Trying to keep up with his left arm, Anakin gripped his lightsaber and reached back before hurling it toward the landing battle droids. The clicks and whirls of their deployment sequence were interrupted as the lightsaber flew in an arc launched by human muscle and guided by the Force. Anakin bent the trajectory to his will, and he didn't need to look back to confirm that the spinning blade sliced precisely through the clump of battle droids. The hilt snapped back into his gloved palm, mechanical fingers gripping it before he changed hands and pointed the way he arrived. That way, we're going up. The Force powered him through a short instant burst, carrying him across the courtyard in a blink. He launched upward, landing on the same ledge he'd used to creep into the scene. He twisted beyond a ventilation duct and knelt down, and a second later, Obi-Wan was next to him. Another transport flew overhead, landing in the courtyard before the sound of more unfurling battle droids came. The young guard's voice echoed throughout the space. Where are they? He screamed. Find them. Roger, roger, a mechanical voice stated. Well, I suppose Master Windu will know where I am now, Anakin said. Don't worry, I didn't contact the Jedi Council. He called me, or tried to anyway. You came on your own? Sort of. I have help. The clank, clank, clank sound of the battle droid's rhythmic steps started. Activate scan boosters. They'll find us soon, Obi-Wan said. We need to move. Yeah, Anakin said. I'm working on that. He squinted, first doing a visual scan for any signs of Mill, then tapped into the Force to bring him greater details. You know, I'm gonna start tracking how many times I've saved you. Today, the nest of Gundarks, the Magnite bounty hunter on Vasad. Obi-Wan adjusted, looking around the corner. I'll have you know that being captured by that swoop bike gang was entirely part of the plan. Like here, if you paid attention today, I was on my way out of here. You, in fact, bumped into my lightsaber, so this doesn't count. Oh, that's why when he was like, that business on Kid and Moja doesn't count after they rescued the Chancellor in episode 3. So that's where he got that from. Alright, I need to start getting ready to go to the doctor, so I'm just going to be lurking. Alrighty, no problem. He glanced at the charred line on Anakin's sleeve. Are you alright? Me? Of course. He flexed his arm as proof. I'm always alright. Aren't we all? Obi-Wan said, his voice softening before returning to its normal spark. Well, where to? I'm looking for, Anakin considered his words here. At some point, he had to explain the fact that he took a youngling on this particular rogue journey, but those complications could wait. They had to just get out of there first. My partner. Your partner? Yeah, you'll like her. Her name's Mill. He closed his eyes, reaching into the Force, searching for her presence. Though he hadn't known each other that long, they shared experiences that had built a bond tangible enough to identify, even from a distance. And while he failed to pinpoint her exact location, her presence acted as enough of a beacon to get into a general direction. That way, let's take the rooftops and stay as stealthy as possible. We have a ship docked in the outskirts away from the primary transportation hubs. She's finding the best path to it. No, wait, I need to find my partner. They hesitated, more fully in platforms of guards and battle droids arriving. Orders were shouted in a variety of directions, and the sound of battle droids unfurling echoed throughout the space. Anakin turned only to find Obi-Wan scanning the horizon. Who is this? Her name is Rug. She's a Neimoidian guard. A Neimoidian? Helping her civilian is one thing, trusting them is another. Anakin, let go of your feelings about them. She's former special ops. I have full confidence in her. We've been working together. You'll understand if we cross paths. Except I don't see any sign of her. She is, he said, with a small head shake, very good at hiding. Though it doesn't matter right now. I need to change your plan. Are you trying to pull rank on me? Obi-Wan shook his head, his mouth forming a thin line under his beard. Our investigations have shown that this bombing had both Republic and Separatist ties. There's no simple solution, and I suspect much worse at play here. But to prove it, we need to recover the evidence from Neimoidian Data Archive. We can't leave without it. He looked at Anakin, a gravity in his eyes that Anakin had rarely seen. Anakin, you must believe me when I say that the balance of the galaxy is at stake. If we get this evidence, if we expose the fact that other parties are exploiting the Separatist conflict, we may convince both sides to stand down and negotiate before it gets worse. Obi-Wan, he said with a gentle nod, you don't have to convince me. I heard your speech. You should go into politics. Obi-Wan's neutral scowl changed, tilting to a full and rare grin. I hope to give far fewer in the future once we get that evidence. Anakin pointed toward a rooftop path, several buildings in a row of various heights that offered little challenge to force wielders. Any bystanders would have seen silhouettes leaping from ledge to ledge, building to building, moving so swiftly with billowing tunics that they may have well been carried away as native birds in flight. At the peak of a rotunda, Anakin put a hand up and they remained perched while he once more tapped into the force to search for Mill. Give my partner a minute. She's supposed to send a signal when ready. He tracked Obi-Wan's gaze to now distant Capitol Plaza. Noise from the square is still audible. In the meantime, there's something I need to catch you up on. And that was the end of chapter 41. Alright, let's do 2 more chapters. 2 more chapters or so. Chapter 42, Rug Quornom. Height, cover, clear lines of sight. Those were the only things Rug needed. She'd done enough sniper coverage in her time with the Neimoidian Special Forces to adapt to whatever her environment presented. In the case of this trial, Rug chose the Tower of Light, the landing mark to close where she'd apprehended Obi-Wan. She broke into the bottom floor. Offices had nothing to do with the tower's architectural significance as a standout example of Neimoidian culture achievements. The service lift took her up most of the way, then backstairs brought her through various maintenance levels and storage. She finished the final leg through unofficial means involving an ascension gun and old-fashioned climbing. She knelt, legs twisted to brace herself in a steady position as she assembled the deconstructed rifle from the case on her back, something she used to stay inconspicuous among the public. Extensions and modules twisted and locked into place, things she'd customized over years to adapt to her grip, her posture, the specific length of her arms, and her evolving armor set. The small power pack hummed to life, and she shut one eye to stay focused on what her scope showed her. First, Obi-Wan, the poor Jedi Master, he really tried, and she warned him not out of any bias, but out of pure practicality. She understood the reasons that drove him, the need to intervene before any further disasters might accelerate the war. And here he was, trying to turn evidence of a mysterious third party into a plea for peace. Admirable, noble, and in many ways quite logical, but it would fail. He continued his speech, a clear, genuine desperation in his statement, but that wasn't why Rug knelt in her position. She zoomed out. They surveyed all around, checking for any signs of disturbances or trouble. Most of the square's blue-clad crowd watched the nearby hall of protection in perfect stillness, their collective mourning over recent events drawing their attention to Obi-Wan in a way that tilted the scales against him. But at the back of the square, one figure moved through the dense population, worn rags draped over the figure. Though it moved with purpose, a strength to each step that made the outfit a clear disguise. As it turned, Rug zoomed in enough and captured a frozen image on her scope to reveal a human male, a hair on the verge of shaggy, and determined eyes that stared in a way different from Obi-Wan. Her curiosity kindled at the mystery figure, except her attention got pulled back to the trial. Qatar now taking full attention. She zoomed in her scope, watching his mouth tremble and eyes squint, his hands turning to fists at his side as he recounted his family woes. She understood his anger toward the Republic, and in many ways it felt justified. But not this way. Rug's finger flexed as she adjusted her grip on the rifle, scanning space again. In the corridor right outside the courtyard, a line of guards approached, as standard issue weapons in their hands, and in the distance, floating platforms appeared in the horizon. She zoomed to reveal the shape of battle droids curled up in storage positions. Obi-Wan would be found guilty, though no fault of his own. He'd been already judged. She heard Qatar challenge Obi-Wan to reveal his source, to name Rug, but she already knew he wouldn't, as she tried to explain people like her created the truths that people like him defended. Rug wasn't afraid to lose her life. She wasn't afraid to be named, even to reveal her own sources, who had sliced into the Kalamoidian archives to analyze the data. Not if it could tilt the axis of the galaxy, but she'd seen enough to know that it really wouldn't have made much of a difference outside of some extra shouting by different parties. Everyone's fate has already been decided. That was the difference between someone like her and someone like him. Obi-Wan Kenobi was too good for a galaxy at war. Damn, that is so true. And then the most unexpected thing happened. A guard started choking. Obi-Wan's frantic look, Qatar's drawn pistol, and all of the ensuing chaos showed that something was going awry, and on the dais above them, Ventress departed swiftly, disappearing through a back exit. Rug pulled back the stock on her rifle, prompting a hum that warmed up the eternal heat regulating system for high-powered sniper bolts. As she did, Qatar yelled loud enough to echo to her perch, and guards drew their rifles at Obi-Wan. Sharp winds blew around her and at her from the small edge, and while her boots ground into the ledge to keep her steady, a crackle came from the stone just below her. She pulled away from the scope for a glance and saw something. That clever Jedi, Kenobi's laser sword. It rattled in its lodged hideout, powered by those magic Jedi powers, then leapt out and flew through the air with unnatural speed. Rug tracked it with her scope, a clear trajectory toward Obi-Wan's hands. Then everything happened at once. Guards opened fire. The mysterious figure somehow vaulted in and landed in front of Obi-Wan, sword blazing. Obi-Wan's own weapon ignited in midair before hitting the ground. Battle droid carriers landed. Qatar screamed in incomprehensible jumble of fury that projected the volume loud enough to capture his emotions, if not the specifics. Rug's scope dodged around, trying to take in the chaos, though by the time she zoomed out, something had sliced the battle droids in half, and the true Jedi had departed. The guards swerved around, ill-equipped to deal with the speed and capabilities of a Jedi, and Qatar stomped around this space, waving his pistol and shouting at anyone who might listen. Because the Jedi were gone, Rug zoomed out even further, then looked for any kind of movement that might give away where the Jedi hid. Then in the upper corner of her scope, she saw what looked like a blur whizzing across the view. She tracked it until they paused, holding her hand steady to keep the view clear as she adjusted the view to bring them in. There they were, Obi-Wan and his Jedi partner. Rug blinked to make sure he actually saw what was unfolding recently. Were they laughing? Another sound came whooshing across, a small fleet of seekers that must have detected movement along the rooftops, likely from their advanced surveilling processors. They pursued in a V-shaped formation, priming up the small cannons that the Trade Federation added themselves. Behind them sailed in two floating platforms of battle droids, and even as they followed at full speed, the droids began to unfurl into standing position. Two blue blades appeared as Obi-Wan and his apprentice stood back to back, lightsabers swinging in precise motion, nearly too quick for Rug's eyes. She'd seen a lot in her time, but never a Jedi Knight involved in full-on combat, and the stories of their frightening martial abilities with their legendary weapon proved to be true. This was far different from Obi-Wan's escape at the hearing. And yet the sheer volume of blaster bolts eventually chipped away, switching to the momentum as the battle droids joined in behind the drones. As the battles closed in, the Seekers elevated, creating different angles of attack against Obi-Wan and his companion, dodging in quick jerks against the Jedi deflections. If there was a time for Rug to act, it would be now. She lined a single Seeker into her sights and took in a breath that pulled the trigger. Now on chapter 43. The note says, I'm gonna go cook some homemade mac and cheese. Oh, good luck, mate. Good luck. I love me some mac and cheese. Probably gonna get something to eat before the first day of Star Wars Celebration starts, which will be in live in 93 minutes. I can't wait to see what they announce today. But Thursday's usually like a slow day for them. Chapter 43, Obi-Wan Kenobi. 154? I got time, so. Excuse me. The blaster bolt flew in far. Excuse me. The blaster bolt flew in from far above. Though the force slowed down his perception enough for Obi-Wan to track it, it soared from an unknown origin to its collision point, absorbing into one of the airborne seekers and overloading it into an explosion. Rug, 2 more shots came, their echoing bursts crackling through the air. A pair of seekers burst, smoke trailing them as they dropped, then 4 rapid-fire shots, each taking the heads off battle droids. A silver opportunity presented itself, enough that a few precise blaster deflections managed to tip the scales in their favor. Though Anakin probably wouldn't make a comment later about how he handled it anyway, and true, Anakin had gone out of worst cases before, but every situation came with its unique circumstances, and just because one had escaped a jam before, it never provided any guarantees for further victory. A silver was, however, all Anakin needed to turn a slight advantage into the decisive victory, and within seconds, the smoking remains of battle droids lay before them, some just trying to communicate with a central command in their distinctive lifeless cadence. "No, you don't," Anakin said, tooling his lightsaber before stabbing downward. "What was that?" he asked, pointing in the direction of the sniper fire. Obi-Wan looked at the tower, pausing to appreciate its architecture with attention he couldn't give earlier. It was a marvel, melding of structural impossibility and artistic genius. From the way that it curved at angles that seemed physically impossible to ornate carving that told one long story of their cultural creation myth. And it turned out a good sniper position, one that, according to Anakin, had nearly been destroyed by a planted bomb. A gesture of good faith, Obi-Wan put up a hand and held it for several seconds. Whether or not Rugg still watched, he wanted the actions honored. Anakin knelt down, expecting the remotes, standard secret technology based on archived models, but these carried specific augmentations to attach weapons to the sensors. He picked up one of the pieces, squinting in the gaping blaster caused hole and the exposed wiring underneath, so consumed by the inspection that he nearly jumped when Obi-Wan put a hand on his shoulder. "Anakin," Obi-Wan said, and Anakin's posture immediately set for a defensive statement, an ingrained reaction to all the lecturing rained down on him during his Padawan years. "Sorry, Master, trying to see what we're up against in case. I am genuinely thankful you are here." Obi-Wan's voice came out soft and genuine, and despite the chaos of the situation, he marveled at the grown man in front of him. How everything since Geonosis both stretched time out and compressed it in an instant, changing both of them. For once, Anakin was left without an immediate rebuttal. He turned from the damaged droid in his hand to look out the horizon of Kanemoya's capital, the missing section from the fallen Kalasura district visible from their location. As if on cue, a flare went up near the industrial quarter. Anakin pointed to it and nodded before bursting forward. "Well, don't thank me yet." The remaining seeker body clanked on the ground, debris splitting out from his damaged body upon impact. "That's my partner. We should go." Obi-Wan looked at the area with the flare, then considered the tower with Rugg's cover fire originated. That tower was the bomb target? Yeah, and 6 more non-military targets, non-financial targets. If it doesn't affect their strategic defense or economic standing, why target them? Voices shouted from the floor level beneath them. Both Anakin and Obi-Wan ducked down, leaning out only enough to see guards fanning out, followed by the heavy footsteps of super battle droids. "Let's move," Anakin said. Turning, he took several steps forward, but then stopped. "Come on, what are we waiting for?" Obi-Wan knew Anakin was right, and they should go, but figures broke into view. Katara, pistol drawn, looking all over for something to shoot at. Behind him, a fleet of guards and further battle droids. He squinted and looked above them, the searching skyline for any sign of Rugg. When he felt Anakin grab his arm, completely focused on the path ahead. "We need to go now." With luck, Obi-Wan wouldn't find out the answers to those questions. Right, he said, and together with Anakin headed out with some measures of force-assisted speed on the move. They ran across rooftops, vaulting over exhaust stacks and sliding down slanted terraces, occasionally stumbling to people on balconies while making their way toward the flare. Every few buildings, a seeker or two would float up, alerted by their presence, and whoever was in the lead waved a hand, crushing the remote guidance system and internal processor. Each time they turned at a hard angle, leaping to a different building to throw off any potential trailers. As they ran, Obi-Wan relayed Rug's story, including her findings of the Separatist evidence. In return, Anakin paused to point out each of the bomb targets. They jumped, a constant momentum forward as they moved over and around the obstacles in their way. How precise was each bomb's construction and placement? Sloppy, Anakin said, arms gripping a ledge to climb. The wiring was a little loose. The explosive material wasn't packed tight. Obi-Wan shook his head as he followed suit. It can't be the same bomber at the Kurosura disaster. The details showed military expertise. We ran simulations. Well, your speech about extremists, a copycat bomber? Dooku's agent, Obi-Wan mused aloud. What roles does she play in all this? There's not much intel on her, Anakin said as they moved quickly. The clones know more of her than about her. They reached a ledge, a marked difference from the intricate designs of Zara's capital area and surrounding commercial district. Instead, the farther they pushed to the ledge, the more structures changed into more utilitarian architecture. This pattern continued as dashing across rooftops became simple runs over flat surfaces, and getting to the flare's origin became a tour into the parts of Kalemodia no one ever talked about. It all felt functional, likely a place of manufacturing and storage. Storage warehouses rose and several buildings of high rises. Through the force, Obi-Wan sensed an array of beings in them, and logic put together that these were the poor and working class of the planet, a mix of Nemoidians and off-world beings who served the ruling class of Zara. No matter how rich a planet or society, someone always had to do the grunt work. They moved swiftly to the edge of the rooftop and immediately below. The open space filled with large tents, the makeshift infirmaries that supported the ill, injured, and rescued from the catastrophe. I don't see any guards, Obi-Wan said, not even battle droids, but keep an eye out for any more of those seekers. I don't think we'll encounter any. My partner was supposed to find us a low security area. Anakin pointed to an alley between buildings, a short-hooded figure standing there, and behind her in the shadows the distinct red, blue, and white lights from R2-D2's dome. Good to see you, an old friend. Better yet, Anakin said, an old friend that can transmit your data to the Republic. Let's figure out a way to get into the data center. He leapt down and sprinted over to the hooded figure before Obi-Wan could reply, and an instinctive exasperation prompted a quick sigh before Obi-Wan decided to follow Anakin's lead. Would Anakin ever not do that? And now we're on chapter 44. We'll probably end there because we have a few more chapters. Yeah, we'll end at chapter 44. Later tonight, I will go through the last parts of the book, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi will be premiering. I don't know if it's coming out 12 a.m. Eastern time, but I can't wait to watch it with Beanie tomorrow. That shit should be so much fun. I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped for what Star Wars Celebration has planned for today. Hopefully it's good shit. So yeah, we'll end it there. Thank you, Beanie, and of course thank you, my boy Noise, for joining me on my book club today. I'll see you in about like an hour and 30 minutes. I'll see you guys again for me streaming the Star Wars Celebration live at Anaheim 2022. So I'll see you guys later, and peace, and may the Force be with you. Oh, and also be more like Obi-Wan.